Dr. Ellen Cohen Lewis is a chiropractor who embraces the science, art, and philosophy of all that is natural. Accordingly, she adheres to the tenet of chiropractic healthcare that the power that made the body heals the body. Today, Dr. Ellen will give us her perspective and insights on chiropractic healthcare. Thank you, Ellen, for being here.
Thank you for
Dr.
having
Ellen,
me, Lisa.
actually.
Thank you.
We're friends.
I'm happy to be here.
Happy
to be here
Happy
today.
you're here. Okay, so let's start out with your background. I always like to find out the educational background, what got you into this field, etc. So,
Well, my first degree, I got a bachelor's in science and
are
education.
you from the area?
I grew up in Queens.
Okay.
I was born in Brooklyn. I grew up in Queens. And I went to college. I became a teacher.
Where did you go to college?
I went to Barnard and I graduated from City College,
Okay.
the City College. And I had a bachelor's in education. And I was a preschool teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And I was teaching for 5 years
And where was that?
in the city, Manhattan. I taught in Head Start,
Head Start. Right.
several Head Start
Which is
programs.
underprivileged children, or
Right.
Okay. Right.
And I was very comfortable with Head Start because it was my first volunteer job when I was in high school.
What were you teaching, by the way? I always like to know all the.
Preschool.
Oh, okay.
Painting,
A little bit. Yeah. Okay.
Play-Doh. I used to make Play-Doh.
Okay.
Bake
all right. Now I
cookies.
have that.
I sat
the
on
feel
a little
for who
chair.
you are. That's what I
Sat
like.
on little
The
chairs.
feel for who you are, the whole person. All right.
Yes.
So you do all that
And
stuff.
then to keep your teaching license in New York State, you need to do postgraduate. So I was getting there, and I was trying to figure out what I could get my master's in. And my brother, who you know, Dr. Cohen,
Okay.
he moved back to New York, and he was a chiropractor. And I thought, wow, what a great thing, because we'd been going to the chiropractor since we were kids, which is was very unusual.
Back then.
Absolutely.
How many
back
years
then,
ago?
back,
We don't need to
I'm a
go
baby
there.
boomer.
Okay.
But back then, chiropractic hadn't even become licensed in New York, which I didn't know, of course. As a child, I thought everyone had a chiropractor, pediatrician, and a dentist. So my brother finished his doctorate, moved back to New York, and I have 2 younger brothers. So I thought, well, they should become chiropractors because they're still in college.
And you were telling your mother this at lunch,
That's right.
Okay.
I was having lunch
You
with
were
my
like
mother.
butting into your brother's lives. Okay.
And I said to my mother, I said, I'm going to become a chiropractor. And I went back to college. I had to go back to school.
So you went back to the same school?
Well, first I went to NYU.
Okay.
I took a year of chemistry in 3 months.
All right. And what else did you take?
Then I took chemistry, organic chemistry, biology, and physics. Basically the pre-meds.
You know why I'm saying that? Because I
Why?
want everybody to know that you're a real doctor, right?
Oh,
if anybody has that question,
Yes,
is a chiropractor
we are
a
real
doctor?
doctors.
Yes, you're a real
So
doctor.
what that
With
means
courses
is,
like that?
right, so medical school and chiropractic school are very similar, but chiropractors have more anatomy, and medical doctors have more chemistry.
Did you say an enemy?
Chemistry.
All right, go on.
So funny. And also the reason I know so much about medical school, which you may have forgotten, is that my then husband was in medical school and I was in chiropractic college. So we went to school side by side.
Oh.
And the reason people always want to know if we're real doctors. And what it means, we are. I have a doctor of chiropractic in New York State. And what that means is anyone can come into my office with any ailment, and it's my responsibility to diagnose them. So I need to know if they have back pain or headache or whatever it is, if they belong in my office,
I see.
and if I can help them. I need to be able to diagnose.
And if not, you would send them to another medical doctor?
Yes, and that's the big difference between, because a lot of times people confuse us with physical therapists or massage therapists. A physical therapist doesn't have to diagnose, and neither does a massage therapist. So, and in New York State, to go to a physical therapist, you need a prescription from a doctor. But you don't need a prescription to come to a chiropractor. And it's my responsibility to know why you have your back pain. God forbid it's from something that's growing where it shouldn't, like cancer or a fracture. I need to know. I need to be able to diagnose that. So we use all the diagnostic tools. We were allowed to use all diagnostic tools
why would somebody go to a chiropractor versus other kind of doctor? What should I say, a conventional doctor?
It's allopathic.
An allopathic.
Right. There's
well, I don't know if
allopathic.
the audience is going to understand that when I say an
Or
allopathic.
you could say medical doctor.
A medical
because
doctor versus...
chiropractors don't prescribe medicine.
Okay.
We don't prescribe medicine, and we don't do surgery in New York State. In other states where they have less doctors, like New York State is full of doctors. New York and Illinois, where Chicago, you know, those are the most doctors per person.
Interesting.
Yeah, well, Manhattan, think about Manhattan and all the hospitals and the schools. So we have plenty of doctors here, medical doctors in New York. You could go anywhere, even all over New York State. There's no part of New York State that's underserved. But out west, like in the Northwest, in the northwestern states like Washington or Idaho, they have less doctors. They have more space, they have less doctors. So in those states, some of them, chiropractors have different scope of practice. They can set bones, they can do minor surgeries, but in New York State, we don't do any surgeries, and we don't prescribe medicine.
Okay.
And I don't think, and we don't, in our case, my case, I don't want to prescribe medicine because that's why people come to us, if they want a more natural approach.
Okay. So let's talk about then exactly what you do and that what someone should expect as they come into your office.
Okay. Well, when somebody comes in, the first thing they get is a consultation, and they tell me what's wrong, and that's really very important because people if you listen hard enough, people will tell you what's wrong, and you can, what's wrong, and sometimes why they have their problem, even if they don't realize it. So I do a consultation, and then I do an exam, which is a chiropractic, orthopedic, and neurologic exam to make sure that they're a chiropractic patient, and then I can help them. Then so we do the exam, we do the consultation, and then I give them what we call a report of findings, where I tell them what they told me, I tell them what I found on the exam, and then I make recommendations for their care. And if I need to recommend them to another specialist, that would be the time I would. Then once somebody comes under care, basically, they might need X-rays or an MRI or any, a variety of diagnostic tests, all of which I could send. Some people need them, some people don't. In the old days, chiropractors did X-rays on everybody. Like even when I got out of school, I'm practicing over 30 years, almost every patient got X-rays because we help people get well. We help sick people get well through adjusting their spine. And that's why I brought my plastic
Okay,
spine.
I was just going to say. Yeah,
I happen to have brought my plastic spine.
Do you carry him, right? You said it's
him.
You carry him with you?
This is a male pelvis. No, he's usually at the office. This is a male pelvis.
Okay.
And these are legs. Sure, these are just pieces. But basically what chiropractic is all about is keeping the bones moving. This would be the back, like here, is here. Keeping the bones moving so the nerves have no interference. Because the nervous system is the master system of the body. Everything is controlled by the nervous system. Even our hormones have a nervous system component. And the nervous system is made up of the brain, the spinal cord, and all the nerves.
Now someone comes in and you're going to use this to explain to them.
Right. After I do the exam, after I do the consultation and the exam, then I explain to the patient how their bones may not be moving right, or their hips, or in their neck. And it may be irritating the nerves. And if the bones are stuck, they irritate the nerves. And the fancy word, which is old, because chiropractic is over 100 years old, and it's from it was started in America, in Iowa. Chiropractic is a very specific kind of bone moving, because for thousands of years people have been moving bones. They have all kinds of names for them. In Europe, they call them bone setters, but chiropractic is specific because chiropractors move specific bones. Like we try to move one bone at a time, So it's very specific. And if the bone is not moving right, over a period of time, it rubs on the nerves.
And that's when you have the pain.
Or you may not have pain. That's the other thing about chiropractic.
That's interesting. I would think
You
that
can be here. I'm just going to move this up. This is one bone. So if this bone is rubbing, let's say this bone is rubbing on the nerve to your lungs wouldn't hurt necessarily, but you might get asthma.
okay, because it's not supposed to be doing that. So,
Right.
all right.
And also, like this little picture, we call it a subluxation. When the bones are rubbing on the nerves, they get irritated or pinched. People use the word pinched, but if a bone was pinching your nerve, you'd be in excruciating pain all the time. It's more of an irritation. So if the bones rub on the nerves, it affects the system. So if the bones are rubbing on the nerves in your mid-back, it could affect your lungs, your stomach, your heart, all of these things. So we want to get the pressure off the nerves so that your body can function. But you said pain because most people come to the chiropractor. Most people go to the doctor because they have symptoms.
I'm muting my phone, by the way. That's what I'm doing.
Okay. And symptoms, a symptom is something you feel, you know, a symptom or a cough, a cold, aches, pains. Most people come to the chiropractor in this area, and most of the country, and it's all over the world now. It's an international science. Because they have pain in their back, or they have neck, or they might have migraines. You know, so most people come in for pain. Mm-hmm. But the reality is you can have no pain, and you can be sick. You can go. We've all heard about people who go to the doctor and they think they're good. They go for a wellness checkup and they find out they have high blood pressure, or they find out.
Is that something you don't tell? You're just using that as an example.
No, I'm just saying that the symptom. Just because you have symptoms doesn't mean you're sick or unwell, and just because you have no symptoms doesn't mean you're healthy. We've all heard about people who go to the medical doctor for an annual, and they find out they have high blood pressure, or they find out they have cancer. Again, heaven forbid. So it's like, if you think about it, if you stub your toe, the pain's excruciating. But it's really not that bad a problem. It's just that you have a lot of nerves in your toes.
But it seems like in this situation, you would have to know that something was hurting
Well, most people come for pain, but some people come for wellness.
Oh, in other words, and you said something about crack, and we were in your office, and you said something about cracking, and it's not only about cracking in this.
Oh, yeah. Well,
is that what you're?
Well, one of the things is it's also, chiropractic is not just about getting well, it's about staying well.
Right.
So there are people in my practice who come every week just to be checked, because everyone should really be checked for subluxations. And again, the subluxation is when the bones rub on the nerves.
Okay. Now we have another one.
And also, the biggest thing I think that I like to share is that most people don't know that children can get adjusted. And I think I told you, because I was a teacher and because I'm short, I love adjusting children because they're easy, because they're small, but also they get well quick.
And you love children too.
And I love children. I'm a baby lover and a child lover. So many times pregnant women come for chiropractic, because a lot of pregnant women have low back pain because they have a baby in front of them. But also, so a lot of the women who come in for pregnancy, when their babies are born, they bring them in to be checked. Because just from the birth process, even though this is technically a male spine, we can get the idea. And so when the baby comes out, there's tremendous, even if it's a natural birth and it's simple, there's pressure on the head. That's why the infant head is designed to close in on itself. So the baby comes out, and there can be pressure on the neck. Then many babies today are born with cesareans, or they use forceps, or they use like a little vacuum on their head. So all of these things can create nerve pressure in the little baby, even though the baby's bones are like jello. When you're born, your bones are mostly like cartilage, like in your nose. So when a baby's born into our practice, we encourage the moms to bring the baby in for a check. Because if they have a little problem, it's usually in their neck or their low back, their sacrum. Again, it's very interesting. I think this is interesting, but this big bone that we all have as adults, the sacrum, when you're born, it's 5 bones. And then as you grow up, the bones mineralize, and they become. It goes from being cartilage to bone.
From
and
5
these
to what? How many?
It goes from 5 bones to 1 bone. Like, look at this big triangular bone.
Oh, okay. So it fuses together. Is that
It fuses together. Thank you for giving me the right words.
I'm
Fuses
telling you.
together. So anyway, and that's also why the other thing that's really interesting and important, I think, for parents is that, you know, a big pediatric
Can I hold
concern.
something for you?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
A big pediatric concern is scoliosis, because a lot of times
Which is?
scoliosis is when your spine is curved like this. This is a typical S scoliosis.
Wow.
This again, we're looking from back to front. Now, when you're born, when you come out, when the baby comes out, the spine is like this, because the baby's, you know, we all know what a picture of an embryo looks like. So when you're born, your spine's like this. Mm-hmm. Then, when you're a baby, now we know babies are only allowed to sleep on their backs.
Might want to move the water.
So anyway, then when the baby's on its stomach, babies have to have tummy time now. That's what we talk about. When you're on your stomach, you begin to pick your head up, and that's how the cervical curve forms.
So I'm having a hard time visualizing that this is a baby.
Well, yeah, it's big. It'd be better if I had.
It's a baby.
Yeah, this is the spine. Let's imagine the spine. It's 24 bones. They'd be much smaller if it was a baby. So when the baby begins to pick its head up, this curve forms. Then when you start to stand and sit, this curve forms. So I'm exaggerating these, but from the side, the spine is curved. Like, put your hand behind your back, your neck.
Okay.
Feel your curve? Look
Yep.
up. Okay.
Yep.
If you hold
I was
your
afraid
chin
I
up-
didn't have one for a second.
Well, if you have a car accident or you spend, like most of us spend your time going to school, you lose your cervical curve. That's very
is that
common.
why you have a hard time? Oh.
Very common. And also, if you have an accident, like you always hear about whiplash,
Whoa.
then the muscles spasm and the neck gets too straight. And then this can get too straight. So all different kinds of things can happen to your spine.
To anything is not good. I'm
What'd you say?
No, to anything is not
To
good.
anything, right. Everything in moderation. But that's why, so going back to the thing with the scoliosis, a big concern for parents of teens is whether the kids have scoliosis. And now they check, everyone gets their spine checked in school. When I was a kid, nobody talked about, it was different. If you had a scoliosis, you went to the orthopedist and they encased you in plaster. They're all different kinds of things for scoliosis. And some children need an orthopedist. But some kids, I've had many kids in my practice, mostly girls. I don't remember why, but girls tend to get scoliosis more, where the parent says, oh, the pediatrician said, you know, so-and-so has scoliosis. Can you take a look? Can you help me? So the kid comes in, and basically, the way a scoliosis forms is if your hips are uneven for any reason, whether it's from falling or sports or anything, then the body, you would grow this way, but the body always wants balance. I'm exaggerating. So the body pulls the spine back. So if a child has, like I'm thinking of one child I had, now she's almost in college. She was a big lacrosse player, and she was very athletic since like kindergarten, soccer, everything. They found out she had a scoliosis, and I'd known her since she was a little girl. So her mother brought her in, and sure enough, her sacrum, this bone, the triangular bone, was tipped. So what I did, my job was to allow the tension. Using the adjustment, using this, I showed you this before. This is one of the ways to do it. Here, put your hand down.
All right, this side.
Other way, it's more comfortable. You see?
I want to get to, first of all, the muscle therapy, right? And also the talking about how the resistance.
Oh, the muscle testing.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, we won't forget
that's
that.
so interesting.
Yeah, that's good. So anyway, the way a chiropractor helps someone who has scoliosis is not necessarily directly on the spine, but it's balancing you from the bottom up. So sometimes kids even need orthotics or a heel lift. But that's a big thing because by the time you're 21, all your bones are hard. But when you're 12, 14, when you first find out you have a curve, your bones haven't hardened. So the time to make these corrections, the best time to make the corrections is when you're young.
So do you have a lot of children that come in? I know you said that sometimes.
I do. I love having children.
Good.
And the thing about kids is, you know, a lot of times kids come in for things because they've been to the doctor, every kind of doctor, and for some reason the parents don't feel they're getting enough relief. And chiropractic, you know, we're very strict with our language because doctors, medical doctors, allopathic physicians, cure illness. And chiropractic, this joke is the only thing you can ever cure is a ham.
Wait.
So we don't cure. Well, that's what, you know, this medical doctors have great value. You know, I said my close friend, my then husband, he's a doctor. I have many friends who are doctors. I go to the doctor. You know, if I get hit by a car.
So there's a place for that doctor and there's a place for you.
Right, and also
saying.
if you need antibiotics, I can't give you a prescription. So plenty of people need medical doctors. So, but some people find they have these subtle illnesses where they're unwell, they can't get well.
And that's where you come in.
Right. Also with pain, you know, everything with the bones and the nerves. But sometimes people come in because they've been to everyone else for whatever it is, whether it's eczema or, you know,
you mean
chronic illness.
Something like that, though, you might go into a chiropractor? Really? If you have eczema? What else? Tell me the other things.
Well, the thing is, and again, you know, I'm very particular with the language because I think it's really important so people understand. What the body has, the best doctor is Dr. You.
Right.
Which is inside.
I know how my body is supposed to be, and
right.
If it's off, I know.
Dr. You. So Dr. You does the healing. What chiropractors do is we remove the interference in the nervous system so the body can heal itself.
I see.
So that's very important so that you can't come and be cured of eczema or asthma or an ulcer or even back pain by chiropractor. What we do is we remove the interference so your body can heal itself.
Okay, now you have to show
the muscle testing?
The muscle testing.
Okay,
that's
now I'm a very eclectic chiropractor, so I practice a lot of techniques. I practice a technique called applied kinesiology, which was developed by George Goodhart, who was the first chiropractor to be on the Olympic team as a doctor back in the 60s. He's passed. So George Goodhart developed a system of chiropractic analysis and treatment that was integrated Chinese medicine principles.
All right. I want to make sure we get to this.
Yes.
That's why.
So,
okay.
So he developed muscle testing. So we did it in my office.
Right.
So we'll do it right now.
Okay. Now this reminds me of what was done when I was a teenager. We used to go around doing packets of saccharin and all that. Is this?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it.
Because now the thing is anyone can muscle test.
Okay.
For years, since I've been in practice, you could go to a health food store and people muscle test.
All right.
But it was developed by a chiropractor. So, the way muscle testing works is, here, are we going to use your arm?
All right.
Put your
I guess
arm.
so.
Yeah, or we can use your thumb and your pinky. Now, in the office, I use an arm, but there are people that hold your thumb and pinky together. Resist. Okay, now hold your arm up like this, because I'm more familiar. Here, hold. You see that muscle's strong?
Okay.
Strong.
Nice strong muscle.
Strong, right. So then what I would do, I can stand up, right? I'll just lean over. I bet I'll just lean over.
Okay.
So what I do in the office is I use a strong muscle like this. This is called an indicator muscle.
I'm going to be
And I check different parts in your body to see what's going on. So far, so good.
Okay.
But the other thing applied kinesiology does, you can put your arm down now,
All right.
is we check we isolate muscles. That's why chiropractic is very specific. So like, if you hold your arm up like this, hold it up, now roll it up. I'm gonna pull your arm towards me. Resist, that's a different muscle. You're in very good shape.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that.
But we isolate muscles.
What about that? We have only a couple of minutes left,
Okay.
but what about that to show how weak it is sometimes? Like if there's a saccharin there?
Well, like for example, we do this with kids.
Like 2 minutes.
We want to show kids how sugar's not good for them. So if I had a
Okay.
sugar packet, I'd hold it on you. let's say you were 5 and mom says you eat too much sugar. I'd say, Lisa, hold this. Here, look, Dr. Cohen and I have sugar. You'd hold it here and like muscle test and your arm would go down. Because your body knows
that it's not good for you.
Sugar's not good for you.
So that's why before I wasn't holding sugar.
Right. But even if you think, it's very, the applied kinesiology is very subjective. It's not.
Oh, okay.
Here we go. But
So
if you even close your eyes and you think about sugar.
No, really?
Look.
I just did.
Isn't that wild?
I thought about
but that's
sugar
very,
and my arm went down.
That's the esoteric side of the
so
practice.
Interesting.
It is interesting. The health is interesting. The human body is miraculous.
And do you love being a chiropractor?
I love being a chiropractor.
I can tell you do. All right.
Because Dr. Yu knows everything. Dr. Yu knows how much insulin you need. Dr. Yu knows.
Me.
You, Doctor. I have my Dr. Yu. We call it innate. The innate inside knows that your heart needs to beat, you need to breathe. The innate power in the body controls the body. All we do is we remove the interference so the power that made the body can heal the body.
You had used
this? Yeah, this is because people always think they're going to go to the chiropractor and it's going to go like this, crunching. I don't do that. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with doing that, but it's not my thing. I do low force so that it's very comfortable. So this moves. I have a specific system, and you can adjust it. You can't really see it.
All right.
Yeah, but I don't hang the people upside down. But that's why.
I love this.
Everything, I also do craniosacral. Everything I do is low force. That's why come here. When you adjust a baby, it's like this.
Okay. So that's how
Nothing hurts in my office. Pain-free chiropractic.
Okay.
You may come in pain, but I won't inflict any pain.
So, all right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for bringing in your man. Thank you for appearing on my show.
My pleasure.
I have no doubt that the audience has learned a lot. And it's a fascinating science. And thank you again for being here.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.